All right. Good evening, everyone on the East Coast. Good afternoon on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us. For those of you on the East Coast, if you've been checking out the promos that we have a lot of awesome things, happening in the works. Whether it's a lot of our episode summaries and reviews of American Gods, as well as a couple of other shows that are on the way, which I will be announcing. But tonight we do have a special guest. The guests that I have tonight, they have quite an eclectic body of work in terms of what they've done in the industry, whether it's been on a small screen with Dawson's Creek, or even on a big screen with Big Mama's House 2, as well as many other projects. They have been, a mainstay in the industry, and they've continued to work in terms of the various opportunities that they've been afforded. So without further ado, let me bring them on. Actor Bourke Floyd. See if we can get him on. Hey, Bourke, how you doing?
Good, Brandon. How are you, man?
I'm good. So first and foremost, thanks for coming on the show. And how are you doing, man?
I'm great, man. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to survive I'm trying to build an ark maybe in my backyard here. It's been raining pretty heavy in Southern California. So, but I'm so glad. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so glad that we were able to keep the internet up and running, so that I could jump on and visit with you and your viewers.
Yeah, definitely. So to hit the ground running, and doing a little bit of research about how your career started and how that kicked off, I understand that, I guess on a semi-professional level, a lot of it started to become a realization that it could be a realistic, career path back in high school when you were doing a production semi-professionally. So can you speak to that?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, in high school, I'd done theater in high school at my high school, and I'd actually been even before that, when I was 11 or 12, I just randomly ended up being a featured extra for a week on the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that came out in 1990. So Brandon, I'm an old man, so well before you were born.
I remember that movie. I saw it in the theaters. I remember it.
Yeah, so I was a featured extra, but again, just to your point, right? Like that was an amazing actually thing I got to do when I was a kid. Like in no way did I come from that at 11 and go, yeah, you know what? I can make a living out of this. You know what I mean? So high school, I did theater in high school at my school. And then the summer before my senior year, I did a program called SPARC, School of the Performing Arts in the Richmond Community, SPARC, which I highly, I couldn't endorse them more for the people in the Richmond community in Richmond, Virginia. But I did that program with them over the summer, and we ended with the culmination of which was a performance or a weekend, a run at the Empire Theater, which is professional theater. And from that, my senior year, I actually ended up doing 2 National Screen Actors Guild national major commercials, and a live show, a run of The Wizard of Oz at Theater 4, which is now Virginia Repertory Theater, as a senior in high school. And both of those, again, while that certainly, if I got 2 nationals in that show every year, that would be a comfortable living. That would be good money. It's still, even at that point, I was like, well, I don't know, man. Brandon, I got to tell you, I've got like this real Forrest Gump kind of backstory with that. Like, I guess, if you were like, hey, man, you want to buy some stock in GameStop a week ago? And I'd be like, hey, well, Brandon's my dude. Yeah, I guess I'll buy some GameStop stock. I don't know why I wouldn't. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, it's like that for me with the entertainment industry. I'd like to think that I'm making smart moves and decisions right now. You know what I mean? That I would like to think that I'm playing chess and not checkers, but I don't think I was playing anything before. I was just showing up where somebody told me to and getting paid. But then as an adult, I started again in the commercial world. Back then, you could really make a lot of money in a union national commercial, and that's really where I had one in particular, the Gap Swing commercial, where I made a huge, a more than my worth of an embarrassingly large sum of money over the course of the run of that. And so, hey, Tina from New Zealand, and that really that put me in a different field. Do you know what I mean? Where I was like, well, okay, so you could really make money doing this, and I pursued it. I quit my day job. I was early 20s, quit my day job, and really started focusing on that.
Definitely. And I guess the only reason why I brought that one up specifically and it came to mind was, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, during that time you really started to really appreciate that idea of having a leading role and the responsibility that comes with that. There's a lot of glitz and glamour when it comes to, being the lead and being, the face on the poster or that guy or that woman. But, very few times you hear those folks talk about how much of a responsibility that it is in being one of those figures, whether you're, the lead, whether you're the filmmaker, producer, and shaping the culture there on set and being able to make it a positive experience for everyone, and the responsibility that comes with that. So often you just think about, I'm the lead. I get all the cool lines and I get all these cool things to do, but not necessarily the responsibility or the impact that, your decisions have, in doing that production.
And you're absolutely right. I was fortunate enough to see that at an early age, and I played sports. I played football at a pretty high level through high school, but then I also played in college, Division I. And you're right, man. Something about being that age and having a lot of younger people around me that I wasn't 10 years or 15 years older than all of them. I was 5 or 6 years older than them. So we were far closer together in age. And yet I had, a lead role in they call it, there you go, man. They call it a lead role for a reason, because you are a leader. And if you shrug that off, if you ignore that responsibility that you have, all eyes are on you because you're the lead in something. Well, all eyes are on you, so you've got to be the leader in whatever you're doing. And you're right, and that was ingrained. Jerry Cutler-Volz and Stacey Trowbridge from Spark, and Bruce Miller and Phil Whiteway from Theater 4. All of those people made sure subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, they made sure that I understood that I had responsibilities, and with it, you get all these the cool things that you mentioned too. You get all of that, but make sure that you're protecting the people that you have the responsibility to work for the people you're leading. It's not hey, there go my people. I gotta find out where they're going so I can lead them there. That doesn't work that way. You got to be the tip of the spear and lead by example.
Definitely. And just as you said, talking about, in the earlier stages of your career, just beyond what we were talking about with your plays, is I guess thinking also of, I guess, starting up with modeling and everything that happened, just as you said, with commercials, in the sense that you had, and having those opportunities. So can you talk a bit about that? Because I feel like once you that threshold that you cross in terms of really committing to acting as a career, and getting into those first couple of roles, it's very, I find it very fascinating, with everyone's story of those, initial jobs, and lessons learned of those, first jobs of your career path.
Yeah, so you're right. It is a threshold. You're absolutely right, and the fact is that when it's so easy to feel like when you cross that threshold from I'm a person who enjoys acting, but I do this for a living, this other thing, whatever it is, right? There's this feeling, I think, for some people, it certainly was there for me, where when you cross the threshold to I am an actor or a model, or I do commercials or whatever, and I do that also, that is also, I not only do that, but I make my living at that. That is what I do as my occupation, not as my avocation. I think that threshold crossed makes you feel you can create it in yourself, that you're working without a net. And that's not the case. You have to remember that there are plenty of people that worked at Toys R Us. The stores and they all closed a couple of years ago, right? Well, those people went on and found other jobs and maybe other careers. You have to understand that you have to commit to what you're doing at the time, and worry about pivoting or your backup plan or that sort of thing after it doesn't work, because that's the only way. Committing to it is the only way that you will achieve the goal that you're actually pursuing in the first place. If you and again, I want to be clear though, there are people that do it as an avocation and have an occupation. That absolutely works. That do it part-time, do it locally or regionally. Some of those people have years that are fantastic. Maybe they book a national commercial, or they get on a couple of TV shows for some under fives and things like that. Like, that's great. So I'm not passing, but that's a different, again, like to your point, that's a different threshold, right? We're talking about saying, I'm going to do this for a living. I won't have any other responsibilities professionally other than those that fall under this heading, and with it, that means if you want to do that, you got to do that. Another thing I always tell people, because when I was young, when I was coming up and I was modeling and I was doing, I was making a very, very good living doing that. I tell people there was a period before, there was a small period for me, thankfully, it was a short period, but there was a period before it was, and I'm making a good living.
I know where this is going. Go ahead.
I was not making a good living. I was struggling. And I was surrounded by friends. I had a lot of friends who were already past that struggle. They weren't on the struggle bus with me. They were well ahead of me. And they were my genuine, bona fide friends. And so they would invite me places. Why don't you come with me? I'm going to Sundance. Why don't you come with me? I'm going to London for the week. Come with me. I'll pay for your trip. It won't cost you a thing. And you got to measure. Sometimes you can say yes to those, right? For sure. But you got to measure. You can't hop off the struggle bus and hop onto somebody else's bus that's well ahead of it and expect to be able to come back and have your bus ever catch up. You gotta stay your course some, And if you're out until 5 a.m. every night with your friends that are already successful, because they measure out with that success, they measure out when they can do that. Man, I would sing karaoke with Leonardo DiCaprio. I would sing karaoke at Moomba. Leonardo DiCaprio and I would be there with a couple other people singing karaoke. My dog, he's gonna drive me nuts. We were singing karaoke at Moomba, and we would be out pretty late Monday nights in New York City, Manhattan. but I would only do that when I didn't have something I had to do on Tuesday. That was still during that struggle period. That was still during that struggle, right? But like, I was happy to be able to do that. But if I tried to do that 7 nights a week, when am I working, Brandon? I'm just watching my other friends succeed, and I'm not putting in the work. I'm waking up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, tired. That's not going to cut it. And so it's that struggle period is awful, man. It's hard too, because you're like watching your other friends like, did you see that? Whoa, he's going here and there and here, and he's buying this and that and that. And he's with her or him and them and that. And they're doing here and going there and whatever. Yo, it's hard, but you got to stay true to what you're doing and work your plan. I love the title of the show, by the way, right? Movers and shakers. You stop. You are huge, dog. Movers and shakers, right? So you got to make moves and shake trees to get some apples out. But
indeed.
But if all you're doing is making moves that work for somebody else and not making moves for yourself, you're never going to get anywhere. You just aren't.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, and that's actually a great segue to, I know you in a prior interview that you had, and I found it really refreshing, that you said that, because you don't commonly hear it, when you hear that age-old question of, was it always a struggle? And just as you were saying, talking about those highs and those lows. And obviously I'm paraphrasing here. It's not exactly what you said, but more along the lines of looking inward and looking at, what you can do and what you can control essentially, and not really looking, externally of this is having an effect on what I'm trying to accomplish, or that is having an effect on what I'm trying to accomplish, just focusing on what you can control and what you can do. So could you speak more to that, and just, being, self-deprecating and looking inwards on what you can do do on your own, and not really look outwards?
For sure. Yeah. So look, you don't get anywhere in the entertainment industry as an army of one. You don't. There are too many. There are too many other people, machines, industry, corporations, that sort of thing required to be successful in it. And all you can do is look at yourself, take your inventory, and see where you can improve and work your problem and climb your obstacle and get past your hurdle, and offer to help others where you see you can along the way, right? You don't want to leave them behind you, but you have to be ready. Let's say that my son, I've got an 8-year-old son. I love him to the moon and back. I even choked up just saying it. I have an 8-year-old son. I love him to the moon and back, Luca. Now, if Luca has a hard time in the mornings, let's say Luca's not a morning person. By the way, full disclosure, Luca is not a morning person, just so you know. Okay. So if I am going to help him be a better morning person, I've got to be a better morning person so that I can be up in the morning to help him. So I need to be ready 5 minutes before he needs to be ready so I can help him those 5 minutes. If he's not a morning person and I don't get myself to be a morning person, then I show up at the same time that we're both supposed to be ready, and neither of us are ready, so we both lose. So you got to work twice as hard to be able to help somebody else, but you got to work yourself. On a plane crash, you put your mask on first so you can make sure that they can get their mask on. That's not a selfish thing. I know I can help, but I also know that I stopped living without oxygen. Let me put this on so I can help. You've got to address yourself first. And you got to face those things you can fix and fix them. And you got to face those things you can't fix and say, okay, how do I make these faults of mine smaller in my universe so they poke out less and annoy people less, or junk up the works less. You know what I mean? But it all has to start with yourself, with your own accountability, and with your own inventory.
Definitely. So with all those things being said, I know that there are a couple of projects that that are lined up that I love to know more about. So first things first, talking about, I guess there's a project called Sour. Are you able to talk about that?
I am, and I'm excited to talk about Sour. Thank you for asking about it. So Sour from Overnight Pictures and Green Apple Entertainment is a crime, thriller, horror kind of movie, more a thriller than horror. Oh, thanks, Tina. Yeah. There's the poster. Look at that poster. Now, Natalie Mayer, the young lady in the front, is a new actress. She was discovered for this project, and she is phenomenal. It's so awkward, this movie, in such a cool way. Like it'll make you edge of your seat and a little uncomfortable and a little trepidatious, right? It's not so much in your face action, although there's certainly kinetic parts to it as well. But that'll be out in the next couple of weeks on VOD, again, from Overnight Pictures, video on demand. On platforms. I know they're negotiating all of that. Green Apple is one of the best for distributing those kinds of things. Overnight Pictures, Clay Moffat was the director. Adam Berardi right there he's on that poster. He's a stud, man. He was one of the he was the executive producer and or one of the producers and the star on it. And it's brilliant. And I'm really looking forward to people getting a chance to see that. So that one's a lot of fun.
All right, awesome stuff. And I understand that there's also another project as well that, I suppose it's in post-production. You have Peach Cobbler.
Peach Cobbler. Yeah, so Peach Cobbler will be out a little later in June. Peach Cobbler is an adult raucous comedy. It's like American Pie for adults or Animal House. Eliza Simmons and Eric Roberts, is Oscar nominee Eric Roberts, are in it with me. Adults go out onto a vacation. 4 couples go out, and craziness ensues at this resort. It's really funny. Thank you. I'm sorry, my Dogo Argentino, Dobie Maguire. I name all my dogs after celebrities. So he's Dobie Maguire. I had David Hasselhoff before that, and I had my first dog I named Burt Reynolds, but he's just
very nice.
I've been fixing my internet at my house, and so now of course is when he's like, all right, let's go out.
I need attention, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So with all that being said, I also want to address the elephant in the room. As you know, I know it's no secret to you that we are, in a unique place right now with where the industry is and what's happening with the pandemic and how that's affected, every facet of production. It's always, it's interesting to see how things are being executed now and how that changes the face of how we consume our content and how audiences are consuming, content, be it film, TV, what have you, or streaming. It's been interesting in having other guests on here, over the course of the year and talking about how things have steadily, picked up or how certain protocols are in place of doing testing 3 times a week, and how that's been, or quarantining, leaving, going on location somewhere and quarantining in that one place for a couple of weeks before they start shooting. So can you speak to that and perhaps if some of those things are still sound about the same, or have they been updated in some capacity?
Sure. So every production, I will say this, every production is slightly different, some dramatically so. The unions are involved, Screen Actors Guild, Directors Guild of America, DGA, WGA, all the unions are involved in one way or another. And then obviously the locality, wherever the municipality or locality, wherever you're filming, they've got a say in it as well to be compliant with their laws and regulations. I'll use, so just to be clear, right, there's no one answer that explains all of them, because every single one will be different to some degree.
Sure.
I'll speak to one specifically then, so that we can, just because it's cleaner to talk about one that I can know of personally. So I did Swagger. It's a TV series that'll be out on Apple TV Plus. It's from CBS and Imagine Entertainment. We filmed in Virginia, actually. So I flew out to Virginia because I flew. I had to take 4 days quarantine in self-quarantine in one hotel, any hotel I wanted basically, but not the production one. I tested when I landed. I tested again on day 3. So I took 2 tests over 4 days. Both came back negative. On the 5th day, I moved into our production bubble hotel that we had the entire building just for our cast and crew, and we could cast. We had the whole building for cast. A very, very nice hotel. So, it was just full of suites and everything. So it worked out. And then every morning we tested, every single morning. If you didn't go to set, if you weren't called to set that day, and actually on that so I did those 4 days, and then I did another 5 days quarantine in the production bubble. I did 4 days prior to moving into the production bubble. Then I did 5 days in the production bubble. So I had 7 negative tests total before I ever stepped on set, and then continued for over a month. Every day, if you went to set, you tested on set. If you didn't go to set, you tested at the production hotel, at the bubble, in the bubble, and you never left otherwise. You went to set. The only people you saw were the people you worked with, and you couldn't see any of them until after you had been cleared. So my 4 tests to get in, or my 4 days and 2 tests to get in, and then I think I was like 3 more tests or 2 more tests once I was in the bubble. So it was like almost a week before I saw anybody, before I was within proximity to anyone. And then it was, we were kind of on an island of some degree. But it was great. I mean, we all knew the challenge to that was missing my family and friends and stuff. But I didn't feel like it was a punishment. It wasn't like a hardship. It was just, figuring that out. Thankfully, I shouldn't say thankfully. I guess the silver lining of this being a pandemic is that to some degree, the world, everyone in the world, or most in the world to some degree, are also facing some sort of, loss of public group mass kind of stuff, and so companies, organizations, people have all been working that problem to figure out how to provide their service remotely. And so, I could get on and take an acting class or a workshop or watch any movie I wanted for the most part, because it's all out there if you look for it. Ordering food in, but having them leave it, so I never actually contacted the driver. All of that stuff has really stepped up. And so, it wasn't as much of a hardship as I thought it would be. It didn't, it wasn't, certainly wasn't like solitary. I wasn't in prison or anything. It wasn't like that. But I mean, it was awkward not having my family. That was strange.
Indeed, man. So with all that being said, I feel we can, cap it off there. I want to, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about not just your path into the industry, some of the things that that you have going, but also what a lot of folks, perhaps actors out there that are watching, anybody in the industry that's watching or looking to aspire to get into the industry. Questions that they may have, or how things look currently in the current landscape. Before I let you go, can you tell folks where they can find you?
Absolutely. So my Instagram handle is Bourke_Floyd. My website is bourkefloyd.com. That's BOURKEFLOYD.com. And I try to keep, I try to be readily available to people and post updates, keep them informed, and then if you reach out, I try to reach right back. So I appreciate you guys tuning into this show. Great show, Brandon. Thank you so much for having me on. And I also appreciate if you have an opportunity looking out for Sour from Overnight Pictures and Green Apple Entertainment and Peach Cobbler as well.
All right, well, there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for those of you watching out there. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find us on Facebook, which you are watching now live stream. We have our encore episodes of these live streams on our YouTube channel. You can find us at Move and Shake UNLTD on Twitter, Movers Shakers Unlimited on Instagram, and of course, you can find me, Brandon Choi ENT on Twitter, and Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. Thanks again so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon. Bye.